Taking a look at the jet stream this morning, we find ourselves with our powerful storm system that we've been talking about for many days, impacting the East Coast with very heavy rain and high winds. And that will continue during the day tomorrow before it finally actually moves out Monday evening. Then all eyes will be trending out west. We're going to be watching a pretty significant low pressure diving southbound, and you can already kind of see the much more active subtropical jet stream beginning to start take shape. That is our El Nino that will bring some big changes for those areas into the southwest. So heading into that Tuesday timeframe, as the system moves out, we are going to be experiencing a quick shot of colder air coming in on the backside. That will actually shift all the way down into the southeast. Then in the middle of the country, we've got the southwest flow. That is a warm flow, especially if we got this active Pacific jet. That's bringing in more of a zonal flow across warm air into the US. But underneath that, we are experiencing that low pressure center starting to take shape. And that's the one that's going to be digging southbound and then eventually bring some much needed rains into the desert southwest. So heading into that Tuesday timeframe, there's that low pressure into the East Coast. That will shift southbound with on the backside of that storm system. We'll have that high pressure kind of move in as the air starts to dry out. Those temperatures will start to fall, and you should see a quick burst of colder air Tuesday heading into that Wednesday timeframe as we see our low pressure starting to develop off the west coast, and eventually that will bring some heavier rainfall into California and eventually head southbound into Southern California. But there's the cooler air. So by the time we head into your wake up with a chilly start on Tuesday morning, that will lead into Tuesday afternoon, heading into your Wednesday time frame with definitely some cooler anomalies taking shape. But you can see the warm air coming in off the Pacific. That is a definite warm flow, well above average temperatures for December standards this time of year. But then we'll be watching our significant trough that will be building off the west coast. And as it does, it'll start squeezing out the atmosphere heading into that Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe with beneficial rains moving back in the picture into northern and as well as central California. This activity will continue to dive southbound, eventually bringing some welcome rains into Southern California. But you can see the warm air, right? It's going to be a pretty warm week ahead for next week. Our first official day of winter actually starts on December the 21st. And you got well above average temperature anomalies really unfolding for a good part of the country. And what's left of our quick cool shot of colder air is going to be gone by the time you get deeper into Thursday evening. And then, like I mentioned, all eyes will be trending out west, where we're going to be taking on a little bit more of an El Nino type look. We've got the much more active subtropical jet stream starting to come to fruition. We've got this low pressure center actually going to be diving as far south as Southern California. That will bring the rains in for that region. That will likely spread into Arizona as we head into that Friday time frame. So there's the system by Friday. So you're taking that Thursday through Friday time frame. Yeah, some pretty good soaking rains across Southern California into Arizona. We'll also have the southwest flow out ahead of the main system. Will bring some rain showers moving back in the picture on Thursday, going into that Friday morning time frame across Texas, into Oklahoma, into Kansas, spreading into Arkansas, Missouri, up here into Iowa, as well as getting into Illinois by then, and that will continue to spread eastbound. So as it does, that's going to bring the beneficial rains, scattered showers within this region, heavier rains across Texas into Louisiana, as that first system will be moving out, going into the portions of the Great Lakes by then. But it continues to transform. That you've got again the much more active subtropical jet. This is what you typically see during an El Nino type winter. You have a much more active subtropical jet stream, less active polar jet over the top. that puts the above average rains into the desert Southwest. I know a lot of you guys have been waiting on this, especially in those areas in Arizona. You're going to be picking it up in a big way because we've got some beneficial rains heading your way. And I think that's only the beginning stages, because we're obviously going to stay in an El Nino for the next 4 months, at least through winter and heading into the first part of spring. So I think this is the beginning stages of a lot of rainfall and a lot of precipitation that will be falling across this region. So yes, as we get deeper to Christmas Eve, right? So as we get deeper on the north side of there's not going to be much colder air to speak of, but at least in the higher elevations within that low pressure to the northwest side of there, we're likely going to be seeing some heavier snows start to fall as we get towards that 23rd, that 24th time frame up here to portions of Wyoming, into Utah, as well as into Colorado. That actually could sneak in the northern side of New Mexico going into your Christmas Eve time frame. So zooming into your Christmas Eve time frame, as that system will be racing across from west to east, there's the precipitation we'll likely have in Arizona, through New Mexico, through the Texas Panhandle, as well as into a good part of Texas, swinging into Louisiana. On the northwest side of there's where that potential snow will be falling. New snow that will fall across that northern portions of Santa Fe into Albuquerque, heading into the mountain regions of New Mexico, spreading into Colorado. Some of that actually could bleed into the Texas Panhandle, maybe a portion of it, and maybe extreme portions of western Kansas. But overall, this is what you would typically see for a white Christmas in any given year. And this has actually been updated. This is the last 30 years, from 1991 to 2020. Those 30 years, look at where you historically see like an inch of snowfall on the ground. All these areas in white typically see about 100% probability in any given year. So if you do the math across the lower 48, there's about a 35% coverage in any typical year that you would normally see a white Christmas. Some years are less, some years are greater, but overall it's about 35%. So what it looks like this year is actually pretty sad, folks. There's just not much snow because there's been a lot of warmer air for December, and anything that's gone over that warmer air has melted. So this is what it would look like by the time we head into your Christmas morning. Potentially 1 inch or more snowfall on the ground. You'd have to get to those areas in kind of the lighter blue to have 1 inch snowfall on the ground, and there's really not many. It's certainly not 35%, what you would typically see. It's probably half of that, right? And then you're talking higher elevation type snow. So that's the snow that could be potentially on the ground for actual Christmas morning. So as we get into Christmas morning, we'll be watching this system, right? So and of course, this is about 9 or 10 days out from now, but where it could actually possibly be snowing for Christmas morning is probably going to be on that northwest side of that low pressure center. So as this moves across, the rain's probably going to be starting to end in portions, a good part of Texas by then. Will likely shift into Louisiana, into Arkansas, into Mississippi, back into Missouri. It's just on that northwest side where if you're around that low pressure, if you're closer to that center, yeah, you can't roll out some snow flurries into the Texas Panhandle, western Panhandle of Oklahoma, maybe western portions of Kansas, what's left over in Colorado from that particular little snowstorm. But of course, I think actually, this will be lifting northeast. And as we get into the daytime heating aspect of it, that will just kind of ruin any chances for that snow to continue, because there's definitely no cold air coming from the north. So, and then overall, the El Nino is going to be alive and well. So this is going to be a much more active subtropical jet stream as we go into next week. So I think all things start to get going by the time we head into that Tuesday timeframe out west with beneficial rains. And this will be slowly shifting eastbound during the week. So you got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so your actual Christmas day, and then shifting over into the southeast potentially as you go to the day beyond Christmas. But this whole southern flank here should definitely be on the wet side. So if we break this thing down for you between now and say Tuesday morning, obviously you got all the heavier rains to contend with still for a good part of the east as this storm system would continue to start to wind itself down and then move out by Tuesday morning. But then Tuesday afternoon, you get all the rain with the low pressure center out west, with all the heavier rains going to start spreading, not just in the, the atmospheric river events where they've been seeing it up here in Washington and Oregon, but further south this time, with the heavier rain spreading into Northern California, eventually getting into Central California. And then as that low drops, as we go into that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, heading into your Christmas Eve, going into Christmas Day, you'll have the east dry out. So after you're dealt with all that heavier rains and the high winds, you're going to start to dry out after that Tuesday time frame. Then the El Nino starts to kick in with a more active subtropical jet, puts the above average rains into Southern California, into Arizona, through New Mexico, to the north there. This is where it could actually possibly snow in on Christmas Day. To the south of there, you've got all the heavier rains inundating a good part of Texas, Oklahoma, into Kansas here, Missouri, back into Louisiana and Mississippi and Arkansas and Illinois, as well as portions of Iowa by then. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. If you like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button and catch my next update where I protect you before and after the storm.